Hi, and welcome to Conductor, where we are two sisters on a mission to amplify women's voices on the podium.
Join us as we interview leaders in the field of choral music, share resources, and build a community for current and future teacher conductors, all while exploring the gender divide. I'm Kira Starr.
And I'm McKenna Stenson, and we are
Conductor. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Conductor. We are so excited to have Maria Guinand on the podcast with us today. Maria, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much, Kira and McKenna, for this invitation. Very honored to be with you.
We are just absolutely thrilled, like Kira said, to welcome Maria. And we want to make sure before we get started that you know a little bit more about this incredible woman's background. Maria Guinand, choral and orchestral conductor, college professor, teacher, and leader of national and international choral projects, has specialized in Latin American choral music of the 20th and 21st centuries. She has received international recognition from organizations such as the International Federation of Choral Music and holds an honorary doctorate of the Metropolitan University from Caracas, Venezuela in 2023.
Amongst her responsibilities, she has been Professor of Music and Choral Conducting at the University Simón Bolívar, Associate Conductor of Choral Symphonic Performances of El Sistema, Vice President and Advisor of the International Federation for Choral Music, member of the International Music Council, and member of the World Choir Council of Interculture. She is also the founder and artistic director of the Cantoria Alberto Grau.
She is frequently invited as a guest conductor, adjudicator, jury member, lecturer, and professor of choral music in the USA, Canada, Latin America, Europe, Asia, and Oceania. She has performed many new works in all of those places. She is currently the artistic director of the Fundación Schola Cantorum de Venezuela, directs the Schola Cantorum de Venezuela, and Choral Fundación Empresas Polar. Welcome to Maria.
Thank you very much.
So Maria, we are so thrilled to have you, and we always start our interviews with the same 3 questions. And so the first one for you is, would you please tell us a little bit about your upbringing and how you came to choral music?
Well, I was born in a family of 7 children. My mother's family were keen that we all learn music. So I started my piano studies when I was 8 years old, and I went early to the music school in Caracas. And in the music school, I joined the choir of the music school since I was, I think, 11, 12 years old. I love to be in the choir. I love the practice of the choir. Later on in my life, I went to England to study. And in England, during my musical studies, I joined all the choirs that were at my university in Bristol. So there was a symphonic choir, there was a chamber choir, there was an opera choir, and I joined all these ensembles because I love to sing. And I did also, I studied singing, and not as a main instrument, but really profoundly. And later on, when I finished my first degree and I came back to Venezuela, there was, let's say, a movement of creating new choirs and bringing a lot of young people into music through choral music. And I think I was taken by that project and by that idea. So that's how I really came into choral music very early, you know. But I have to say that there are some aspects in my personality that also help that. One is that I love people. I love to be surrounded by people. I mean, I love to work in groups. And as a musician, I saw myself much more working with groups than performing an instrument as a soloist. And secondly, I think since very early in my life, I discovered I loved education. I loved to teach, to give back knowledge. And I think that through choral music, I could do that too. So I am very lucky that I could discover my vocation early in life.
That's beautiful, Maria. And it sounds like you talked already about a few moments in your life that may have been pivotal for you. Could you pinpoint maybe one event or a sequence of events that was inspirational for you to choose music as your career and not just something that was a hobby that you loved?
Well, if it's music as a whole, I have very clear the moment when that happened. I was 18 years old. I was in Caracas and I was at the music school, but also I was at the university. My father was very keen that we all have a university degree. And there was the music, to become a musician was not a university career. It was only in the music school. So in the university, I was doing education in physics and mathematics. Those were the subjects I was prepared to teach. But at the same time, I was studying music. I was learning choral conducting and piano and singing. And I remember one day it was a Sunday, and I went to a concert in Caracas of a wonderful pianist playing the Tchaikovsky piano concerto. And I came home so touched, so emotive. And when I came back home, I had that afternoon, I had to prepare a physics exam and also a piano exam. And immediately I sat myself on the piano to practice, for hours and forgot about the physics. So that day I knew that music was the winner.
Oh my goodness, that's incredible. I mean, you obviously are brilliant then in a myriad of ways if you were studying if you were studying the sciences. That is so unique, and I'm so happy that you decided to practice the
Yes,
piano that day
me
instead.
too. Although I have to say, I am very interested in sciences. I am all my life had a very rational mind too.
Mm. And there's such a connection, as we know, between music and math. And so interesting that those parts of the brain were able to come together and launch this instigation of such a incredible career in music. And I think all those tools, the organizational side of math and science is so integral into music. And I know we'll talk about a little bit of that as we continue on the interview.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people can relate, Maria, to having that moment of being so emotionally moved by a performance that they leave and are like, I want to do that forever. So I love that you can pinpoint that moment in your life and how profound and special that you happened to attend that performance that one day and then that
Yeah,
happened to lead to the
and
rest of your life. I mean,
yeah,
there's something beautiful there.
yeah, and it was not choral music. It was just
Absolutely.
a piano concerto, but it was music.
Mm, incredible. So when you think about, you mentioned your father and a couple of other moments in your life. Can you pinpoint any other specific people who were perhaps influential in your journey to get to where you are today?
Well, one person that has been crucial in my life is Alberto Grau, who is today my husband. But well, many years ago, he was my first music teacher, my first piano teacher. He was the one who approached me to music, and I think his way of teaching, his discipline, his love for music, his sensibility, and also his how to say. He was perhaps not so rational, but he was more um, sensitive, to things. He really um, he was able to uh, take me through music as I was going into my from my childhood to my adolescence. And later on in my life, I also discover through other mentors other aspects of music very important that helped me to grow up very much. And one of them was Helmut Rilling, wonderful a choral and orchestral conductor and a specialist on Bach music, but not only Bach music, but all the German romantics. And his insight into music, his thoughts, his way of understanding the message behind the score were very relevant for me and meant a lot. And of course, there were other masters from whom I also learned very much. I have to say that in the choral life, in the choral music, I loved also the times when I could plunge myself into sacred music and Gregorian chant and learn from Luigi Agustoni, one of the ones who initiated the new semiology and rediscovering the way of new interpretation of Gregorian chant in this century, and his way of creating the subtleties in the melody and the beauty of words and melody. So these people really touch me very much.
That is so beautiful. I'm struck by what you said about your sense of rationality balancing with Alberto's sensitivity. And I thought immediately of McKenna because she is also married to a musician. And I feel like Brian brings that sensitivity as well. And so I feel like there's a lot of parallels in what you were saying about the two marriages, which is really, really cool to hear. And I also love that you mentioned Helmut Rilling because he has been an answer for several people on this podcast. So obviously he is a giant in our field and his works remain influential today. I mean, I've studied things from the Oregon Bach Fest. I mean, I feel like I'm connected to his works, though I've never met him. So, it's always great to see kind of through lines between all the people that we've had on the podcast. So I really appreciate you saying all of that.
Yes.
So, Maria, you talked a bit about your time growing up in Venezuela and then moving abroad, but returning to Venezuela. And so we were wondering a bit about how your upbringing in Venezuela has informed your life as a musician, and then also the return, because you talked about that pivotal time period where new groups were sprouting. And so we'd love to hear a bit more about that.
Well, my upbringing in Venezuela, I was born in 1953. And during that time, politically, I have to talk a little bit about political life because that influences also your life. We were in the end of periods of upheavals and dictatorial governments. The last dictator finished in 1958. So when I was growing up in my country, there was a lot of enthusiasm for the new democracy, for the new country. And although it was a small country and simple life, you could feel, you could smell, you could see that there were projects coming up for the future in the country. So in my house, we were, as I say, 7 children. My father was an engineer, my mother was an educator, and music was part of my life and of the life of my sisters and brothers, although I was the only one who became a professional musician at the end. But we also, my grandparents were very interesting people, readers. One of was lawyer, the other one was an architect, landscape architect, and very related to the plastic arts. I had one grandmother who was very musical, and the other one who was really gifted in languages and literature. So my upbringing was full of beautiful people and people with lots to give us in our childhood. Then, as I said, um, when I decided I wanted to become a musician, and my father say, "Well, but all my children need to go to university and have a university degree," and I said, "Well, there's no way I can do this in Venezuela." So I did on my own. It was my own research when I was 18 years old to research for universities, and immediately I was interested in England. Why? Because of many things I have heard and all that. So I researched in England. I sent my applications. I got accepted into Bristol University. I got a grant, and that was already in the early 70s. Venezuela was progressing also financially. So I could leave the country to study in England. And I knew that it was going to be a period of hard studies, of very deep work, not traveling back and forth as people were used to do, just stay there. And I didn't have any British background. My background was more French. My name comes from Switzerland and from the French side. So I am more on my first language, a foreign language was French, together with Spanish. So I learned English here in the British Council. And when I got to England, of course, England for me was foreign, was really new. But I love the way of teaching. I was in a small music department. We were only 10 in my class. So we had my education was very personalized, tutorial education. My tutors in England were very patient and very loving with me because perhaps my English at the beginning was not very good. I couldn't understand everything they said, especially also with the British accent. My music background and upbringing was good, but there were other things that I didn't get here. So I think they put me into the right road, and I was in a music department for 4 years of only British students. One day I was asked, "How do you feel here?" With us, and I said, "Well, I feel sometimes a little foreigner because I am the only foreigner." And then they said, "Well, you are not. We have a Scottish and an Irish." that was that was very English.
Oh my gosh.
But
Oh.
of course, I could not participate many times in the common room when we were having a cup of tea in the middle of the day or the morning. I could not participate of the British humor because many times I didn't understand. I didn't know what why are they laughing about? What are they? Anyway, I got to love England very much. The people that surrounded me, friends, my teachers, my mentors there, and also the music and choral music was very important. And well, I knew that my days in England were, um, uh, you know, into a time frame because I had so much money. So I had to come back to Venezuela, and I was given the opportunity from the university to uh, pursue my master's degree as an external student. So I was very grateful for that because then I could work in Venezuela during the school year and I could go there the summers. And I pursue like that my master's studies in the same university. But in Venezuela, I was immediately um, taken by the new organizations and life that was coming up. It was already 1976, so the finances of the country were good. In 73, there was an oil war in the Middle East, so all the countries who were oil producers had wealth. And in this country, there was a government, a social democrat government that was really developing the arts and developing, everything that has to do with music and social action. So El Sistema started in 75. The University Simón Bolívar, which was my university, a new university, started in the 70s. The Scola Cantorum had started in 67, but had won a very important prize in 74, and they had created a new foundation. So all these organizations were had leaders at that time who were perhaps 40 years old, who were in front of new projects. I was 23, and I was asked to join them. I didn't have to search for a job. Jobs came to me like that. So I came to Venezuela, and since I had had this education in England, they wanted me to be the people, the person to work in all these projects. So that's when I came here. I got myself involved in so many beautiful projects, new projects. And we had, as I say, we had to break stone from that very beginning. Break stone, because everything had to be done. It's not that I came into something that was already built for me. No, I had to build. And that in my life has been essential training.
Mm. Maria, I've been reflecting as you've been talking, because Christian Glasses was my professor at USC, and he was a student of Alberto's and yours both. And I took his choral literature 3 class, which is a focused class on Latin America and then the Asian Pacific Rim. And in our class, we talked so much about Latin America and how the influence of colonialism impacted the entire continent, and then how there were the independence wars and then this post-war period, and there were only a few countries who had this musical renaissance that you've been talking about. And it's been incredible to hear your lived experiences in Venezuela. And so many people don't know this. So many people, at least in the continental United States, just aren't aware of the influence of colonialism in in this region. And so I'm so happy that you brought this up. And it also made me think about what an incredible musician you are, because one thing that Dr. Grass has always really emphasized to us was in Venezuela, for him and for his teachers and for their teachers, you had to be an all-encompassing musician. You could not just be a conductor. You needed to be a composer. You needed to be the one creating the ensembles, finding the spaces. You had, because things were being built, like you said, you were breaking into stone and you were essentially starting over. Everything had to be done. And so it's incredible that you, as a young woman, were given these opportunities in this space, because I imagine that A, there were not a lot of others, and B, it's a testament to your skills and your braveness to venture to another country, to study there, to bring that knowledge back, and to know that you were meant to be part of this movement. So I want to applaud you and also inform our listeners a little bit more about the real experiences that you've had and just how incredible it is that you are here today, and that you were such an influential part of that reckoning and that education and that musical, I mean, really, Renaissance is the correct word. So I'm so grateful that you brought that up, and you kind of walked us through your travels and your upbringing and how things have changed, and hopefully things will continue to only grow and expand and get better. And now a quick word from our sponsors.
This season, we are featuring a fierce lineup of women composers found in the Music Spoke marketplace. At Music Spoke, composers receive the majority of the proceeds from sales, retain control over their own works, and all scores are available immediately as digital downloads. At Music Spoke, they do not simply publish pieces of music. They find composers and give them the tools and freedom to promote themselves.
You just heard Above the Stars by Sarah Rimkus. Check out her works today on musicspoke.com and conducther.com/sponsors.
And we're back.
So I was wondering, since we spoke a little bit about England and a little bit about your feeling of being an outsider in that environment and just being a foreigner, I think is the word that you chose. I was wondering if you could talk about being a woman in that environment in addition to that. So were there cultural differences? Were you the only woman in your program? What was the demographic like when you were at Bristol and also when you returned to Venezuela?
Okay, no, in Bristol University, I think, I mean, I cannot remember, but I think we were even. I mean, I don't think it was a matter of more women or men. The only thing I remember, which for me was very important, is that I am left-handed. I am left-handed, and in my country, all the desks in the school were for right-handed. You know, so I had to suffer to write like this. And when I got to England, I found that in my classroom there were half of the desks were for right-handed, and the other half were for the left-handed. So I felt very included. That was really great. So in gender wise, no differences. And when I got to Venezuela, I mean, I was asked to work in the three different projects by three men: José Antonio Abreu, the founder of El Sistema; Alberto Grau, the founder of the Escola Cantorum; and Abraham Abreu, who was the main professor at the University Simon Bolivar. So these three men just came to me and say, okay, join us. And I was also given the history class in the oldest conservatory in the country by another man, Eduardo Plaza. So all these men saw in me somebody who could take the challenge. So I never felt that that was not for me. I mean, I was prepared. I had the enthusiasm. They trust me, and I started to work. So there was never in my mind this concept in that moment that I could be excluded because I was a woman. No.
That's so powerful for our listeners, I think, to hear. And also such a great reminder that we are allies with so many people beyond gender, beyond race, right? We're looking to lift others up and to support people in the field. And so for you to list this group of men specifically who saw the spark in you, and then for you to be the one to say, thank you for this recognition, and here I go, because
Yeah.
you are within that group an equal. You have changed the course of musical history for so many people. I don't know if you know, but when we saw you in Istanbul, Kira and I don't think we could even say anything the first time we saw you because we were so like, oh, it's Maria. Like we were so starstruck because it's been so impactful for us as young women in the States to read about you and to learn about you through our courses of musical history. And I think that what you just said is the perfect reminder and poignant for our time right now, which is that we want to support those around us with this spark and uplift people to feel like their spark is recognizable. And it sounds like this is something that happened for you. And I love to
Yeah.
hear
Yeah.
about the
Yes.
nuance.
And I think that the most important for me all my life, the most important thing has been to recognize that spark and the willingness to join with enthusiasm a project and to work hard and to be a good artist. And for me, it's never been a matter of gender, religion, social condition. It's there. It's the human being. It's the person. Of course, sometimes you don't have the same opportunities. Um, um, Maybe, but it was not my experience. And I have to say, these men I was working with were strong leaders, and sometimes we disagree, but I never got an answer like, no, because you're a woman, you shut up, never, you know. I mean, if we disagree, I had to argue my disagreement and I had to find a solution. And many times I won. Many times I used tools that are different to words, Sometimes I wouldn't say much. I would be very discreet, but I will go my own way and start acting and create my project and do the way I thought it should be done. And then suddenly when the product was there and everything was happening, um, then sometimes I got recognition, and oh wow, this is happening. I think that one thing I learned very much is that you have to be strong. As you have to be strong leader when you say, okay, this is the way and this is the way, but not always with words. Many times with your action, and also with the possibilities of creating consensus, with others. Uh, we have that possibility of being more, how to say, open to listen, to work together, to if you want to say something hard or rude, perhaps you can refrain and think. I don't know, but I wouldn't say that this is a women's capacity, but we have more that. We can be less impulsive. We can at times be more, okay, wait there, let me think, let me not just react. I had a grandmother who was a very sage woman, and she always told me, when you want to react um, with anger or with passion and want to say, bite your tongue and think.
That's such good advice. That is such good
And
advice.
I thought, gosh, that woman was so sage, because now in my age, I think how many times I had bit my tongue and not say at that moment, exactly what I wanted to throw out. And then things turn on a different way. And I say, okay, now is the moment to act or to say.
And now, a quick word from our sponsors.
Conductor, 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 conductor.
Hello, this is Sandra Snow, Director of Choral Programs at Michigan State University and Artistic Director of Mirabai. Mirabai is partnering with the Denver Women's Chorus to present Storytellers, a workshop unlike any conference you've been to. For the first time, leaders in choral music education will partner with members of GALA, the Gay and Lesbian Association of Choruses, to bring a workshop that blends the experiences of musical activists and classroom trailblazers. The Storytellers Conference is designed to improve your rehearsal and ensemble leadership through sessions that promote inclusive pedagogy, cultural responsiveness, and a new lens through which to view the conductor's role. Featured guests will include composer and singer Moira Smiley, and all attendees will be able to see Mirabai in concert. Session presenters will include collegiate educators from across the country and gala chorus leaders who are working as community activists. When we come together to listen to one another's stories, we all grow. Storytellers. Listen, connect, expand. To register, see storytellersdenver.org.
And we're back. We talk about this exact thing that you mentioned, the strength, and then also the reaction, choosing to turn that anger and passion into a more tactical direction, maybe a way to get what you want, but also in the professional and strong way, where maybe you have to keep coming back to it and exploring. But I think that the way that you talked about leadership there is so powerful. And you also always bring it back to the person, Maria, which I think is, for me, the most important part of our field. We work with people and
Yeah.
we are changed by each other. And so I would love to ask you about your work, not only as a music educator and project creator, but also as an academic dean and a conductor. You've worn all these different hats. And what are some reflections you have from those different spheres, and maybe how there are some through lines or things that all work together amongst each of those?
Well, to be part of the academic life was extremely important for me because I had to share with many other colleagues that were not into music. And my university, where I was, didn't have a music department as such. I was into a scientific and technological university. And the music department we created, I had to lead the creation of this music department on a postgrad level. And of course, the main what will be the main discussions in the university life? Budget, you know. Okay, a newborn baby is coming here. They want budget, you know, space. Okay, they need space. They need, and are we scientists willing to give them all that? So to negotiate all those issues, to touch their not only sensibility but intelligence, was always for me a challenge. And I think that the fact that I had also a scientist mind, you know, a rational mind, helped me very much. And we succeeded. We created a beautiful department, and we could, you know, we could mend all. I mean, we could know all the administrative work and all that. My country is very Latin in the sense that nothing is clearly established. You everything is improvised. Sometimes you don't know, you know, the real roads. You think the, you know, you read A B C D and then you say, okay, I have to go 1 2 3 through this road, and then you find that at the end of the first number there is a barrier and you cannot go on, so you have to take a shortcut or whatever. So you have to learn all this. And at the beginning, because I came from a family that is from Swiss origin, and I have an uncle that used to tell me that I was like a Hugonote, like a Huguenot. You know, the Hugonotes, they were the Protestants who were like, oh. He told me, you are like the Hugonotes, you know, you want to go, and this is not the way. And I said, okay, I need to combine. And I was coming also from England, where everything was so clearly. And then I could not, and then I think that there was something here in this beautiful tropical land of full of beautiful people, joyful, sensitive, nature growing so uh, generously, that made me understand that I can plan ahead to the maximum detail, but on the road I will have to improvise so much that I have to learn to improvise, to create other roads, shortcuts. And that applied not only as a dean, but also as a conductor. Because as a conductor, I was not only conducting music, and as you say, from Christian, I was doing everything, you know, creating, looking for my room to rehearse, for the chairs, for the music stands, for the music, for the concerts, for the money, for the everything, creating a structure like the Fundación Schola Cantorum, where even today, after 56 years of life of this institution, we have to raise the money, we have to find the way to to live, we have to be aware where is there an opportunity so that we can jump into that opportunity. So this is nothing is done. And today, I am 70 now. I have been working for now 47 years in this field. But I think that what is most rewarding is to learn that nothing is written. I mean, I could have never thought that my country was going to be a, thorn, destroyed by politicians in these 25 years, and that so many things we built had to receive like a tsunami, and then suddenly, sometimes perhaps you were discouraged, but then you have to say, wait, do I still have strength to stand up in front of this tsunami and say, no, this you will not touch, and this you will not touch, and this will. And after 25 years now, I can say that that was another learning, because I had many years to build, to continue building, and then I have had years to protect and to stand, and to say, no, I will not be on your side, but you will not take what is mine, what is ours. And here we are still on this point. And after the pandemic, when we talk about resilience, I mean, we have been resilient always. And we have to keep, because we have to be creative. We have to open our eyes and say, okay, what can I do now? Where are we? Which direction will we take? Some years ago, as a conductor, I could plan from Venezuela beautiful international tours because there were resources, there was money. Today, after 25 years, our currency was so devaluated and it's shattered that we don't have the possibility now to think or dream about international tours. But then through through online actions, we can bring international things to us. I travel a lot. I can bring ideas. I can give a voice outside to what we are doing here. So there are other ways. And I see that our young people, even if they would love to jump on a plane and travel somewhere, they understand that this is perhaps very, very, very hard at this moment. And it would be a mistake to put all our energies just to do that. So we can put energy to do wonderful concerts, learn more, do more, advance in life, and let the circumstances that are outside of us get a little bit better in order to plan other things. But I always tell them, no complaints, let's not think, okay, we had those years where we were doing and da. Yes, we did. And we took the best opportunities of those years. We did everything we could. But now we have these years with all these difficulties. Okay, let's do now, and let's take all the opportunities these years bring us.
Wow. Oh, Maria, there was so much wisdom and reflection in everything that you just said. And I think a lot of people around the world who listen are going to relate to this feeling of the tsunami coming at you, of hardships and barriers and political actions that are directly affecting you and your job, and needing to stand up and say, no, not today. And I do know what's best for my students, for my community, for my life, and for what I can offer. And I think your wisdom in terms of, you can plan and you can say, I'm going to drive this way on this road, but I know that something's going to happen and I'm going to need to improvise and go take another route. I mean, that's not only so apt for music, because I relate to that. Like yesterday I led a rehearsal and I made a rehearsal plan and I, anticipated things that would go wrong, and all of that is important and you need to do that. But then when you get into the room, it's like that planning is so important for before you are with the people. And then when you are with the people, the plan may or may not happen. It goes out the window if they do the things that you were, not expecting, or vice versa. So I think as a conductor, as a musician, I love that. And I also love that as a human being because, as you said, you've witnessed and experienced these very, very different periods in your life of support and musical blossoming and musical resilience and having to be strong in all of these different ways. And I think it's very, very powerful for us to remember that we've made it to here. It's 2023. And sure, things were awesome in 2019, but it's so important for us to continue to look forward and remind ourselves of what we are able to do and
Yeah.
keep coming back to what we can offer people. So
And I
I
think,
was love that.
Maria, you model so well all of these different hats, and also to your organization and to the people that you're working with, what it really means to roll up your sleeves and get the job done, and to work with compromise in mind, not necessarily it has to be an ultimatum. It sounds like the way that you're working is really organic to try to take on the adversity that's coming, the tsunami, while also holding firm to the things that are the most important, the heartbeat of whether that's dean leadership, uh, getting a budget for the organization, or trying to find space in the mathematics and engineering community so that you can have the history class. So, what a beautiful arc that you just wove through that.
You've walked us so specifically and beautifully through your abilities as a musical leader, and kind of I want to say, like, it's beyond leader. You've served all of these different purposes, and you have been what Venezuela needed when you needed to be there. You have served the people who you needed to serve. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about some of your artistic life outside of the things that we've mentioned and your musical achievements.
Well, I have to say that I became passionate about choral music in all its dimension, in all the repertoires. However, gradually I became more and more interested into 20th century music of Latin America because I'm married to Alberto Grau. He's a composer, and through him I got to know many other contemporary composers. So I became really passionate about 20th century music of all, Europe and Latin America and United States and everywhere, but especially Latin America. And since I had the opportunity in my when I was 30, 40, 50 to travel so much with my choirs, I always wanted to bring to new audiences repertoire that was not known for them, repertoire that came from Latin America. So that for me became a very important landmark. In that respect, I would say that um, I have premiered many works by Alberto Grau, Miguel Astor, Guido López Gavilán, Antonio Russo, Pinto Fonseca. But also when we got the opportunity by Helmut Rilling to be part of the Passion Project in Stuttgart in year 2000, he asked Osvaldo Golijov to write the Passion that was uh, reflecting the Latin American soul. Let's say how a Latin American composer and Latin American culture lives the experience of the Passion. And of course, it's a different way to live. We live Christianity here in a very different way that Protestants live in United States, or even Catholics live in Germany. There is all this syncretism here, all these mixtures of the African culture, uh, and the African religions under the Christianity, and then all this mixed up. So Golihov was inspired by that, and he created a wonderful piece of music that we created all together. And it was very extremely risky because there was not a clear road. We only knew we had a date, We knew that it was September 4th, 2000. We had to premiere that. But we didn't know where the road was going to end. And Golihov is not a composer who is a formal composer who will be writing, clearly on the page, for choirs, recitatives, arias, and he was like, you know. So at one point, I had to tell Osvaldo, come down to Caracas and spend with us 3 weeks here while you write. And then I told the Schola Cantorum, we have to meet every night with this composer, and he will write during the day, and we will try out during the night to see if it works or not doesn't work. And well, it was a process, a wonderful creative process, and that was for me one of my major um, highlights in my life as a conductor and as a leader. And we did that passion, um, during more than 14, 15 years in more than 50 beautiful scenes in the world. And also, I have to say that I became very involved in the music of Johann Sebastian Bach through Helmut Rilling. So to create a Bach Academy in Venezuela, it was the other way around. It was not going out, but coming in to plant Bach here, with him, with his knowledge, and somebody who was open and flexible to have Bach performed and played, not only with period instruments or with special vocal technique, but to be more school kind of Bach doing was wonderful. And that we did that Bach Academy for about 30 years. And that was, no, 20 years, about 20 years. That was great because we brought all this knowledge to Venezuela, but also to go deep into Gregorian chant and sacred music. We brought it also to here because I wanted conductors to be more into the early music and how to perform Renaissance, Spanish Renaissance, and how to know the liturgy and to do all that.
Mm.
That was wonderful. So I have to say that those are the areas in my life where I feel artistically very strong and very comfortable. Always, if I was going out, I was bringing something new. If I was coming back, I was bringing something from there to here. So it will be this direction, which I think it's been for me very enriching because I have had to study a lot and learn a lot too.
I was going to say, what a beautiful exchange. And for our listeners, if you haven't heard La Pasión según San Marco, that is the piece that Maria was referencing by Goliov. So definitely listen to it and check it out. And now, a quick word from our sponsors.
Conductor, 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 conductor.
Hello, everyone. Jocelyn Hagan here. I just wanted to let you know that the Compose Like a Girl podcast has officially launched. Listen as I interview celebrated composers Sarah Kirkland Snyder, Chen Yi, Dale Trombor, Angelica Negron, Rina Esmail, and more. I'm also hard at work on the next batch of scores in the Compose Like a Girl choral series, distributed by Graphite Publishing. You can help me bring these new pieces to life. I'm always seeking choral ambassadors to perform these new works by emerging composers. If you're interested, please reach out to me, Jocelyn Hagan, via my website, jocelynhagan.com, or social media. I look forward to hearing from you.
And we're back. No, it's great because, well, there's so many thoughts that come to mind. I think that this sort of project-based activity that you were speaking about, whether it's the creation of new works or bringing different types of music into the community that you are working with, this global perspective and this more liberated mindset, I think, is something that some are so open to and that some are still striving toward. And even if you can't do a project of this scale, I do believe that project-based learning, the experience of doing things in your classroom and inviting in a composer or partnering with a different department, interdisciplinary work is so powerful for our community. And I also think this leadership role, Maria, that you've taken on is so impactful. And I wonder if you could share any advice you would have for young women who are looking to get involved in this type of project development or leadership opportunities, specifically with a global mindset.
Well, you've said it. The last part is the most important, a global mindset. Of course, you can be leader in your community with the tools of your community and with the culture of your community and with the knowledge of your community, and take from your community and your background the best things that you can put together in order to build your own organization. But I think today, in 2023, we need to relate globally, not as bringing something exotic, to our classroom. It's not something exotic. You are part of that too, and I think it's very important. I mean, it's not. I mean, for me, it's not exotic in Venezuela to sing a Negro spiritual, for instance, or to sing Handel's Messiah. This is not exotic. It has to be part of my culture too. So for you in North America to sing Latin American music doesn't have to be exotic. It has to be part of your knowledge. And it can be Latin American music through composed, with languages of composition that are nearer to more to your background, but it could be music that comes from popular sources or has. So for me to sing a South African song doesn't have to be something exotic. It's, we belong to that community too, or to sing something from Sweden. Maybe what is a little bit exotic is that the language is not so well known. Okay, but let's try to learn it. I mean, you are not. If you want to sing a Chinese song, you will try to learn how the Chinese language sounds, but you're not going to mimic Chinese. You are going to make it true. So I think it's very important for us to build leadership in our communities as global leaders, because also you bring ideas, not only in terms of repertoire, but in terms of behavior, in terms of creativity. Oh, I saw this in Istanbul, for instance. I love the way that the first night concert went. When the Norwegian conductor, when he had to conduct all these Turkish songs that are very straightforward, simple choral arrangements. And he managed to recreate them in a way that his concert was so interesting, new, and alive. I mean, he brought something new for this, and then I saw that and I said, wow, I like that idea. Because this is something you cannot do it in the same way, but it's the idea. I mean, you don't have to do the music as it is on the page. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Get out of that. Build something new.
I think people underestimate the power of their own offerings sometimes. I mean, McKenna and I had such a wonderful experience going to IFCM, the International Federation of Choral Music, a symposium in Istanbul, and just being around other musicians who are from vastly different places all over the world. I mean, there is something that is just so powerful about that. And I think we forget that what we have to offer is unique. And I think that we forget that even in our own continents, we can still do that. We can still be leaders and offer what we know and ask questions and do better. And it's great to perform works from other places because that gives more recognition to those composers. I mean, people I think are often either scared or maybe intimidated is a better word to try something new. Or perhaps afraid of offending somebody if they don't do it perfectly. But the number of people that I've met who have just said, please perform music from my country because we want you to. It's okay if it's not perfect. It's not going to be perfect. Like, you're not from here. It's okay. I think we lose sight of that sometimes. So I'm so glad that you reminded us to keep
and now
that global perspective.
And now you mentioned IFCM. I have to tell you that IFCM was essential in my life as a composer, as a conductor, and as a leader. IFCM was founded 40 years ago in 82, 41 years ago in 82. And I went to the festival in Europe, Europa Cantat, when that was founded. I was a young woman then. I had, I think, 29 years old, something like that. And I went with Alberto Grau. We were already married. That was our honeymoon, that festival. And I saw all those leaders, who were 44, 45 years old with so much insight, clarity, joining forces, Germany, France, Japan, United States, Latin America, founding IFCM under the leadership of people like Paul Verley, Marcel Cornelou, Royce Salzman. And I learned so much from them. And I have been IFCM fan since then. And I have to say that all my global perspective somehow has been formed or has come from all that relationship with IFCM still today, because I'm still serving as a vice president and trying to incorporate more and more young people to strengthen and defend these spaces. Sometimes IFCM gets weak because we need more members, we need more people to work for it. And I told in the assembly in Istanbul, I said, is this organization still needed? Do we need it? And if we need it, then we need young blood to foster it, to push it, to be there, to work as we did, to work. How did we work? I work with everything. I offer myself. Can I translate? Can I serve coffee? Can I do this? Can I communicate? Can we organize the International Day of Choral Singing? I send you news. I go to today, even with the internet, with the online communication, we can really foster these organizations. And I will ask you your help. And now that you have this wonderful podcast and that you have been part of this IFCM symposium, because we need people like you.
Oh, well, we had the most amazing experience and would recommend it to anyone listening. The other thing that is really impactful, I think, is that the conference, if you're selected to present, supports with some financial help. And that's unique. I know that not all conferences do that. And I know it's not always a guarantee, but we felt very lucky to be able to be a part of it. And the conversations, not just the performances, not the sessions, but the conversations in between those things were also so educational. Getting coffee with someone who lives in a time zone that's 14 hours different from your own, and being able to sit down and connect immediately about things that are going on in rehearsal or score study, or just topics of conversation within your choral communities was life-changing. And to hear panel discussions on topics that are so unique, we think to ourselves, but then to hear how different countries and communities across the globe are handling these nuances, I think it's just the start for Kira and I, and we hope the start for so many people listening, and we'll link more information to our website.
And now, a quick word from our sponsors.
Conductor, 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 conductor.
Pavan Publishing is proud to feature outstanding women composers and conductors.
Composer Judith Harrington has created a prolific choral series for youth and treble choirs that includes Fireflies from Japan and Duérmete mi corazón from Brazil.
Shirley McRae has many outstanding arrangements for young choirs, including popular songs like Black Sheep, and Sakura.
Conductor Iris Levine maintains a treble chorus series of medium to advanced works with text by poets from Teasdale to Yeats.
Other composers and authors in the Pavan family circle include Zenaida Stewart-Robles, Catherine Rundis, and Martha Wall. Explore all of these fantastic composers at Pavan Publishing. And we're back.
Maria, we have really one more meaty question for you before we go into our last couple, our fast five. And the last one we have for you is, would you share with our listeners a time when you maybe faced discrimination? It can be in any kind. And what suggestions do you have for others to overcome adversity?
I thought very much of that question when I read it. And I have to say I've been very lucky because I never felt discrimination. I mean, I have to say it honestly. Not as a woman, not as a Latin, you know. So it's it if it and it, perhaps and if it was there, let's say if it was the intention of somebody to discriminate me through a comment or through something, I was never. Perhaps I was protected with a shield already through my work. I've always felt so empowered, secure, positive, that if there anything came on my direction of a discrimination attack or something, I would perhaps I reacted in a way that it was already neutralized. You see what I mean? So I think we do not have to think of to feel that you can be object of discrimination. When you feel that you can be the object of discrimination or evil or criticism, and then you feel, in your heart and in your stomach, have anguish and you have like insecurity and all that, then you are bringing these energies to you. So you just push that out. Why, if I'm doing honestly my best, I can do the best I can do. And if sometimes you are criticized or you are told that you are not doing something well in a, let's say, in a professional way, you have to accept the criticism. You can never say you're criticizing me because you're discriminating me. You have always to think, what is true on that message that I'm getting? Can I really improve something? Can I really do something? And if you find that there are things that really you can improve, take them. If you find things that are for you not important, just leave them and keep going. That will be my advice.
Wow, that was so well said. And I'm so happy to hear that you have had such a beautiful life and have not faced any moments that you can pinpoint specifically that have impacted you negatively. And I think there's a lot of power in what you just said about putting a shield around yourself, built with confidence and knowing your work and doing your best, and not allowing others' comments or looks or words to enter that shield if they're meant to be hurtful, and taking really only if it's something you can do better, great. work on it. And if it's not, try and leave it at the door. And that's something I think we can all strive to do better and strive to be specific about.
I may add, I never want to be a victim. I don't want to be victimized. I mean, I hate to think that I can complain because I am frail or because I am a victim. No, I want to be on the other side, not victimizing. No, I want to be on the side of the people who feel strong and who can fight and find ways to solve problems.
I think that that's also something about the World Choral Symposium that rang so true as an undercurrent in the conference that we attended, is being part of the change and not sitting back and waiting for things to improve. And I think that that sort of maybe sums up what you just shared, not only about a global organization, but about self. And as we know, all the lessons might not be pleasant, and I don't mean that to anyone who has faced discrimination. That's not what I'm saying, but there's something in those lessons that we can take, and we can take strength. And sometimes we may need to feel down for a while, but then what can we do with that? How can we continue our own internal strength and power and intensity that Maria has shared with us, and walk tall and support others to do the same, and reflect curiously about all the things that we're a part of. That curious reflection, I think, is really important to try and diagnose what is something that will be impactful and I need to take from that, and what can I release. And so we're grateful, Maria, for you sharing all of that wisdom. And I know I'll keep coming back to this episode to listen back.
Anytime, I will be happy. I will be happy to talk to you anytime you want, not only on a podcast, but personally, whatever you need some advice, I will always be there.
And now, a quick word from our sponsors.
Conductor, 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 conductor.
Hey everyone, Gloria here from Call Time Clothing, back again to remind you to check out our newest special edition items from our collaboration with Conductor. Grab a super soft tee for yourself, a family member, teacher, or maybe all of the above. We've truly got something for everyone. Head over to Call Time Clothing today.
And we're back. In closing, we just have a few questions that our audience really enjoys hearing about. And so the first is, what is a favorite current choral octavo or composer that you would recommend to our listeners?
Well, of course, I like very much the music of my husband, Alberto Grau.
And we do too. Yeah. We do too. Well, my favorite piece I've ever done is Casar Mielagahi.
Well, there are some unpublished music now, but he wrote 3 lamentations inspired on the Lamentations of Jeremiah in the year of the pandemic, which I premiered in Houston with the Houston Chamber Choir in 2022, and I will do it in Caracas in 24. So they will be available in Earth Songs from next year.
Incredible. All right, number 2, Maria, is, what is one misconception about you?
Well, I was wondering about this question because I don't know, a misconception of what other people think about me. Maybe some people think that I am not very approachable, or that I am a little bit strong, you know. and perhaps it's not a misconception. Perhaps it may be true, but when people approach me, I am really very glad to open up my heart and to talk.
I fully agree. I feel like, well, I relate to the coming on very strong, but when I met you, Maria, you embrace everyone you meet, because I saw this with multiple people around me, with just such kindness and light and joy. And that is what others are perceiving when they meet you, just so you know.
Thank you. Okay. Then it's a misconception.
Maria, what is one word that you would use to describe yourself as a conductor?
That was difficult. But I think as a conductor, I like to be creative.
Mm, absolutely. I think that is the essence of conducting, and you've distilled that so beautifully.
Hmm. All right, number 4, Maria, and I know you were nervous about this one. Do you have a choral blooper
Yes, then
that you could share?
I remember that. And yes, I do remember that I love to conduct by memory my concerts. And even if there's a long list of pieces, I do not even have the program in front of me. I just have in my memory the titles and the keys, to start. And a choral group could be that you have two pieces on the same key that are one following the other, and then you forget one, and then you give the tone, let's say A minor, and then you start conducting, and the choir starts singing. The you are on the second piece, and the choir starts singing the first one because you missed one. It has happened to me. So you have to be, and one piece was very slow, and the other one was very fast, and then you start like this, and then the choir looks at you and start, and then you say, "Wow, what is this?" So how
That is also, Maria, related to my choral blooper, and I'm so appreciative that I'm not alone. So I appreciate you sharing and deeply connect. And finally, we like to end with this question, but what is a favorite choral memory that you would be willing to share?
Well, favorite choral memory was when I went with my women's choir to the Guido d'Arezzo competition in '89. How hard we work and we prepared for our competition, and when we were there competing and then waiting for the results, and then when we got some first prizes, the excitement of the choir. So it was really something that, and this is back in my life, but that was a beautiful memory of challenging times, because already it was hard to travel. It was we didn't there were not many women choruses in Venezuela to relate to, so we had to really work hard within our own mindset and artistic perception. So it was life changing.
Mm.
Mm.
And it goes back to people, Maria, which I think is so the connecting thread that I've noticed in our time together, and something that I hope we'll all take with us as we move into the coming week, because the reason we do this is for the people. And so I'm grateful to you for bringing that to the forefront today.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Well,
Maria, it's been, I mean, just beyond a pleasure to talk with you today, and I'm so thrilled that our listeners are going to get to know you a little bit by listening to this time that we've had together. And we just thank you so much for making this happen, and we're so honored to have had you as a guest today.
thank you so much for this beautiful invitation. I love to talk to you. Your questions and your interview were very well prepared and so beautifully presented. And I hope that you have wonderful lives as conductors, musicians in the choral life. And anything I can do to help you, foster you, mentor you, please write to me.
Oh, thank you so much, Maria. You are incredible.
Perhaps you could add a little bit that people can look at our webpage too, which is at
Absolutely.
la-scola, SCHOLA. And there are many of my recordings there, and of the life of the things we do here.
For our listeners, as a final Final ad, if you haven't seen us on social media, please follow us. On Instagram and TikTok, we are at conduct.her.pod. And on Facebook, we are conduct.her. Thank you, everyone.
And we'll link some information to the World Choral Symposium and IFCM. So stay tuned for that to be added to our website. Thank you for listening. This has been Conduct Her.
This episode was engineered and mixed by Mary Hannah Klontz, with intro and outro music by Jonathan Martin and ad music by Kate Krellin.
Discover more resources at conducther.com.